I've always felt like I was born into the wrong world. The kind of world that praises loud voices, quick wit, confident grins, and charisma that fills up a room. And then there was me, Olivia, the woman who preferred the hum of silence, the company of books, and the comfort of routine. At 28, I worked in a small-town library, a place that felt like home, but often reminded me of how little I fit in anywhere else. I wasn't shy because I had nothing to say. Quite the opposite. I had entire galaxies swirling inside me. Thoughts, emotions, stories, and dreams. But when I tried to speak them aloud, something inside me froze. My tongue would lock, my voice would betray me with trembles, and people would stare like I was some fragile glass ready to break. So I stopped trying. Over time, silence became easier, familiar, safe. My co-workers called me gentle, which I knew was their kind way of saying I didn't speak up much. Customers often looked through me instead of at me. I couldn't blame them. I barely looked at myself either. Most days, I moved through life like background noise, present but never heard. But then came Mr. Elliot. He was in his 70s, tall and thin with eyes that carried the calm of someone who had seen too much yet judged nothing. He came to the library every Thursday afternoon, never missed a week. I noticed him because he never said a word. Not once. He communicated through a small notepad he carried, and gestures that were elegant in their simplicity. At first, I thought he was just quiet like me. But one day, I found out he was deaf. Completely. He should have been invisible like I felt. But somehow, Mr. Elliot made people notice him. Maybe it was his presence. The way he smiled directly at you. Or how he paid full attention even in silence. It was a kind of confidence I didn't know existed. Not loud, not showy. Just there. One Thursday, he handed me a small paper with neat handwriting that read, "You always look like you have something beautiful to say. You don't have to speak to be heard." I blinked at the note, then looked up at him, stunned. For the first time in years, I felt like someone truly saw me. Not just the shell, but the storm inside. I wrote back, my hand shaking. "I'm not sure anyone's listening." He smiled and pointed to his ears, then to his heart. I understood. Some people listen better when there's no sound at all. After that day, our silent conversations became a kind of ritual. Every Thursday, Mr. Elliot would bring me a thought, a reflection, or a challenge scribbled neatly on a scrap of paper. One afternoon, he wrote, "Try to share a piece of your world with someone this week. Even just one piece." At first, I panicked. Share what? With who? But his kind gaze told me it didn't have to be grand. So I started small. I wrote a poem, just a few lines, about the quiet ache of loneliness. I slipped it into the returned book bin with no name. A week later, a teenager came to the desk, holding the book, tears in her eyes. She whispered, "Did you write this?" I didn't answer, just smiled softly. She smiled back. That moment, that unspoken exchange, felt louder than any applause. Mr. Elliot noticed my glow the next Thursday. I told him what happened through a few scribbles on paper. He nodded, and under his next message, he drew a small star. "This is what your voice looks like," he wrote. "It lights gently, but steadily." Encouraged, I pushed a little further each week. I offered a heartfelt recommendation to a lonely widower, led a story time for toddlers, despite my shaking hands, and even once calmed a mother who had lost her child in the aisles. In those moments, I didn't need volume. I needed presence. And I had that, even if I hadn't seen it before. But the moment that changed everything came when Mr. Elliot didn't show up one Thursday, or the next. I found myself pacing near the window, checking the door every few minutes. Silence, once my comfort, became a kind of panic. Then a letter arrived. His niece wrote that he'd passed away peacefully. He had left something for me. Inside a small box was a leather-bound notebook. The first page had a message in his handwriting. Fill this with the things you thought no one wanted to hear. I cried that night. Not loud sobs, just quiet tears that soaked into my pillow. And then I began to write. Every evening, I poured my soul into that notebook. Not to be heard, but because I finally believed my voice mattered, even if only to me. Months later, I saw a teenage girl sitting alone in the library, shoulders hunched, eyes sad. I recognized that look. I walked over, handed her a blank journal, and said softly, "It's okay to be quiet. Just don't silence yourself." As I walked away, I felt lighter. I had finally found my voice, not through volume, but through presence, compassion, and truth. In a world that rushes to speak, sometimes the deepest truths are found in silence. When we stop trying to be louder than others and start listening to ourselves, we finally begin to speak in ways that truly matter. If this story touched your heart, consider liking, sharing, or commenting with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more quiet truths and soulful stories.